I'm 90 years old. I'm a Vietnam veteran. I spent almost 10 years in that war. I saw things most people never see up close, and I made it home. But the thing that weighs on me now isn't what happened over there. It's the years I stayed quiet inside my own house. Most people think the hardest part of being a soldier is the fighting, the danger, the things you can't unsee. I believe that too, and if I hadn't lived long enough to really look back, I might still believe it. For decades, I thought I was a strong man. I didn't cry when friends didn't come back. I didn't talk about the nights I woke up in the dark with my heart racing. I didn't say much about fear or doubt or the memories that didn't fade the way I hoped they would. I kept it to myself, and people respected me for that. They called me steady, solid, the one you could count on. I told myself being strong meant carrying the heavy part alone, not letting my wife or my kids see me shaken, staying quiet so they wouldn't have to carry what I carried. War taught me how to shut things down so I could survive. No one taught me how to turn them back on when I came home. I showed up for dinner. I went to work. I paid the bills. I did what I thought a good man was supposed to do. And for a long time, I believed that was enough. Until I noticed my son stopped looking at me when he talked about his day. My wife stopped asking what was on my mind. Inside my own home, I became someone who was always in the room, but not really there. I survived the war, but I lost years I can't get back. If you believe doing your duty and keeping everything inside is the right way to love the people in your life, stay with me for a minute. I believe that for almost 70 years, and no medal on a shelf makes up for the distance that builds up at home. When I was 18, I was afraid I wouldn't be brave enough to go to war. I had no idea the real fear would come much later, sitting at 90, realizing I had been in the room my whole life. But I wasn't really there for the people who mattered most. Back then, I just thought I was finally old enough to be a man. I still remember the first time I put on the uniform. The fabric was new, stiff around the collar. It had that clean smell, cloth and metal, from the badge on my chest. I stood in front of the mirror longer than I needed to, pulling my shoulders back, trying to look steady. In that reflection, I didn't see a kid from a small town anymore. I saw someone I wanted to believe I already was. My mother stood in the doorway that day. She tried to smile, but she couldn't stop the tears. I saw them. I just didn't ask about them. I told myself they were tears of pride. I needed to believe that, because if they were fear, I wouldn't have known what to do with it. My friends slapped me on the back and laughed. They said I had guts, said I'd be fine, and I believed them. In my head, being strong meant not hesitating, not turning around, not letting anyone see your hands shake. We didn't talk about fear. No one taught us how to. We were taught to push through it. Somewhere along the way, I started believing emotions were something you kept under control. If I admitted I was worried, if I said out loud that I was scared, I thought I'd shrink in people's eyes. I was more afraid of looking like a boy than I was of going to war. So I learned to hold everything in early. No one forced me to. I chose it, and I was proud of that choice. I believed that silence was what made me a man. Looking back now, that belief followed me home, because at the same time I was teaching myself something else, that when a feeling gets too big, the safest thing to do is shut it down. And once you get used to shutting it down, it doesn't just switch back on because the war ends. In the beginning, I still felt everything. I knew I was scared. I could hear my own heartbeat at night when the darkness settled in and the air felt heavy around the tent. I was still an 18-year-old kid trying to look calmer than I actually was. Then, one afternoon, something shifted, and I didn't even understand it at the time. We were moving through a wooded area. The guy walking a few steps ahead of me was talking about a girl back home. He said, when this was over, why he was going to marry her. He was smiling when he said it. I remember that smile more clearly than anything else, because a few seconds later, he was gone. No warning, no dramatic moment. 1 second he was there, still talking about the future. The next, there was only silence where his voice had been. I stood there waiting for the pain to hit. I expected something inside me to break open. I thought I'd feel it in my chest, in my throat. Something. But nothing came. Not a wave, not anger, not even tears. Everything inside me went quiet in a way that scared me more than the gunfire ever did. It wasn't strength, it wasn't courage, it was absence, like someone reached inside and turned the volume down on everything that hurt. And in that quiet, I could still stand. I could still move. I could still follow orders. On the outside, nothing changed, but something in me stepped back and didn't come forward again. Looking back now, either that was the moment I began shrinking parts of myself just to survive. The first thing I lost wasn't blood. It was the part of me that felt too much. Out there, if you let the pain all the way in, you didn't function, and stopping wasn't an option. So I did the only thing I knew how to do. I pushed it down and kept walking. I told myself that was strength, that it was necessary. What I didn't understand was this. When you shut something off to survive, it doesn't stay behind. It follows you home. And when I came home, I kept living that way. When I came home, people called me lucky. And in a way, they were right. I was alive. I could work. I could get married. I could build something that looked like a normal life. On the outside, nothing seemed wrong. I sat at the dinner table every night. I went to work. I fixed what broke around the house. I did what I believed a man was supposed to do. But there was a space in my life no one knew how to describe. I didn't sleep much. Some nights I lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, listening to the clock and to my wife breathing beside me. She would roll over, rest her hand on my chest, and whisper, "You can't sleep again?" I always gave the same answer, "I'm fine. Just work on my mind." In restaurants, I chose the seat facing the door. I never explained it. I just couldn't sit with my back to an exit. It made my whole body tense. 4th of July, fireworks went off and the kids were laughing. I froze, just for a second, maybe 2, but long enough for my heart to race and my hands to go cold. Then I reminded myself I was home. Just fireworks, nothing else. I smiled so no one would ask. I told myself this was love. Keep things steady. Don't bring the past into the house. Don't make anyone carry what they didn't ask for. Then, one night in the kitchen, my son dropped a glass. It hit the floor and shattered. Before I could think, my voice came out sharp, louder than it needed to be. The room went quiet. When he looked at me, not angry, not crying, just cautious. "Did I make you mad, Dad?" I said no. I told him it was just an accident. But something changed after that. He stopped coming to me first. If something happened at school, he told his mom. When he was proud of something, he looked at her. I was still sitting at the table every night. I just wasn't the one he reached for anymore. One evening, my wife said it softly. No anger, just honesty. It feels like you're here, but you're not really here. I heard her. I just didn't know how to step across the distance I had built. And the years moved forward like that. Not loud, not dramatic, just steady. Until one day I realized they didn't need me the way they used to. Years passed, and I kept living the same way. I worked. I showed up. I sat through school meetings, family dinners, holidays. No one could say I wasn't there. I just didn't talk much about what was going on inside me. One afternoon, I was sitting on the porch with my grandson while he was working on a history assignment. The book mentioned the war. He knew I had been there. He looked up at me and asked in the most ordinary voice, "Grandpa, did you ever get scared?" It was such a simple question. Most people could answer it without thinking. I almost did. The word no was already there, ready to come out. I had been saying it my whole life, to friends, to coworkers, to myself. But this time I stopped. I looked at him. There was no expectation in his eyes, no image of a hero he needed me to protect. Just curiosity, just a kid trying to understand his grandfather. And I realized something in that moment. If I said no, I'd be hiding again. If I said yes, I'd have to admit something I had spent decades pushing away. It wasn't the question that caught me off guard. It was the fact that I didn't know how to talk about fear without hiding behind the old version of myself. I survived a war, but I didn't know how to answer a child with the truth. So I said, "Yeah, of course I did. Everybody gets scared." My voice came out quieter than I expected. He nodded, like it made perfect sense. Like there was nothing surprising about a man admitting he had been afraid. And that's when it hit me. Maybe I had spent my whole life trying to protect my family from my fear, when what they really needed wasn't a man who never felt it. They needed a man who trusted them enough to say it out loud. He ran back inside after a while. I stayed on that porch longer than I meant to. And for the first time, I wondered if my silence had ever really been strength, or if it was just a wall I had built too high to climb back over. Years after that afternoon with my grandson, I went back to Vietnam. I didn't tell anyone I was searching for anything. I just said I wanted to see the places I'd once been, like it was a simple trip, something an old man does when he's closing a chapter. When I stood in that field, I realized my memory didn't match what was in front of me. In my head, it had been noise and urgency and tension. In front of me, it was just open land, grass moving in the wind, children running across it, laughing like nothing heavy had ever touched that ground. None of them knew what had happened there. I stayed longer than I expected, not because I found some big answer, but because something finally felt clear. The place that once lived in my nightmares was just a field. Life had moved on here. People planted crops, raised families, grew old. The war ended when I was still young. I let it live in my house for 40 more years. I brought it home with me to the dinner table, into sleepless nights, into every quiet "I'm fine" I ever said. Standing there in all that calm, I understood something I had avoided for decades. The silence that once helped me survive wasn't protecting me anymore. It was just something I had gotten used to. and I never questioned it. When I was 18, I ran toward gunfire because I believed that's what a man was supposed to do. Back then, silence was proof you were strong. Courage meant no hesitation, no visible fear, no weakness anyone could point to. Now I'm 90. I move slower. I get up slower. Some mornings I stand still for a moment before I take my first step. The strength I once trusted isn't about how much I can endure anymore. It's about what I'm willing to say. I didn't understand that at 18. I see it now. You can survive by shutting parts of yourself down, but you can't stay close to the people you love that way. I thought I was protecting my family from things that were too heavy to share. What they needed wasn't a man who never felt fear. They needed a man who could look at them and say, "I was scared." It's strange how brave we think we are when we refuse to feel. Silence didn't make me strong. It just taught the people I loved how to live without reaching for me. Now, at 90, my medals sit in a small box on a shelf. The medal still shines, but that shine never warmed the nights I stayed quiet for too long. My old uniform is still in the closet. It doesn't fit anymore. When I look at it, I don't just see fabric and patches. I see a young man who believed carrying everything alone was the same thing as loving well. I survived the war, but there were years I didn't really live with my family. Not because I didn't love them, but because I thought love meant protecting them from the parts of me that felt weak. It took me almost a lifetime to understand something simple. You can endure a great deal on your own, but you cannot build closeness through silence. I used to believe I had time. I thought there would be a better moment to open up, to say more, to explain more. That later never arrived on its own. If you still have someone you can talk to, someone who would listen, someone you could answer honestly instead of automatically, then you're standing in a place I no longer am. I can't go back to the evenings when my son was small. I can't go back and answer my wife differently, but you can change how you answer tonight. I can't choose for you. I can only tell you this. You don't want to be 90 years old, looking back, realizing you were there your whole life, but you were never truly present. I thought being strong meant staying silent. All that silence did was take years I could have spent closer to the people I loved. If you still have someone you need to speak honestly to, don't wait until the only place those words exist is in your memory.